Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, probably the most entertaining marketing podcast you're going to put in your ears. I'm Jared Walls, associate producer and Stirista's creative copy manager. The goal of this podcast is to chat with industry leaders to get their take on the current challenges of the market, but also have a little fun along the way. In this episode, Vincent and Ajay talk to Nick Panayi, Chief Marketing Officer at Amelia. He discusses the practical uses of conversational AI, as well as his own career evolution. He also explains how he sees account-based marketing as a discipline and not just a marketing strategy. Ajay loves Mondays, and Vincent needs more coffee. Give it a listen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Vincent Petrofessa. That must mean one thing and one thing only. It's another episode of the Marketing Stir brought to you by Stirista. Thank you so much for listening and liking us and subscribing. Wow, we are well over about 48,000, but maybe hopefully by the time this comes out, 50,000 people who've listened to this podcast that my co-host and I just started because we had a little downtime, but we also wanted to bring great content and great interviews and guests to the people. Stirista, who are we? We're an identity marketing company. We have our own data, B2B, B2C. We help companies market to that data, get new customers, send us your data. We will cleanse it. We will hygiene it. That's the same thing. I realize that, but that's the double cleansing method. I'm just making that up. But again, we'll clean your data. If it's fragmented, we will add data to it, make it more marketable. We have our own DSP, Adster. Email me, vincent@stirista.com. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, the best part, one of the best parts, we have our guest, and then we have this next person. My partner in crime, my co-host, ladies and gentlemen, the CEO of Stirista, Mr. Ajay Gupta. What's going on, Ajay?
Hey, Vincent, I think you're missing on a couple of cups of coffee today.
I know, right? I need more energy. That's because it is the start of the week and I have a 6-month-old at home and a 3-year-old who doesn't listen and doesn't sleep. Yay. Here's some more coffee here.
Yeah, luckily for me, I'm well rested from my weekend naps. So I'm ready to go. Monday is my favorite day, as you know.
Yep. AJ had a little vacation, right? You kind of had a little bit of time away.
I did, yeah. We went to Horseshoe Bay. It's a nice little, normally we stay at the resort there, but because of COVID, we had a little bit of an Airbnb stay there.
That's nice. That's nice. Got to get away every once in a while. I have to do that myself soon here in New York City. The city is crazy, but that's a whole other podcast. Let's focus on the positives. This next guest. Positive guy. I like him very much. He is the CMO of Amelia. That's formerly IPsoft, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Nick Panayi. What's going on, Nick?
Hey, Vincent. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You see, my energy's back, Nick. That's all I needed is just to hear your voice. That's all I need. I didn't need coffee, AJ. I needed a little bit of Nick's energy as well. Nick, how's everything going? What have you been up to? I haven't talked to you in a little bit.
It's been a wild and crazy time here at Amelia. It's, we're in a space that's growing fast and is kind of morphing in front of our eyes. So from a marketer standpoint, this is a dream come true, an opportunity to do some category marketing as well as some company marketing at the same time. So, and it's an exciting space. I love the technology. So it's been crazy. It's been fun.
I love it. My first question to you is, just tell the listeners out there about Amelia, formerly IPsoft, what you guys do there.
Yeah, so Amelia is a conversational AI company, and obviously AI. There's a lot of information about AI. AI is a very, very broad and wide space. Conversational AI is all about understanding human variance in how we communicate and allowing machines to communicate with us as effectively as humans do. So obviously for an enterprise, that's quite useful because you're able to put a conversational AI agent, we call ours Amelia, in front of customers, whether they're internal customers or external customers. Let them communicate with Amelia what they wish to communicate. and let them ask what they need to have done, and Amelia will then get it done for them. So it's designed for the enterprise, and it's a solution designed not only to communicate and understand human variance, but to actually turn around and do something about it, take action on behalf of the customer. That's what we do.
And tell us about your role within the organization, Nick, as Chief Marketing Officer. And then one step further, we always love to talk about how you got into marketing. What was the path?
Yeah, no, I am the Chief Marketing Officer here at Amelia. I've been here about a year and a half. I am blessed with an amazing team. And like I said, a fantastic product and a white-hot marketplace. So I can't ask for too much more than that. I've spent my entire career so far in the technology space, in companies large and small. Right before this, I was with a company called DXC Technology, a large systems integrator. I've spent some time with Avaya and voice over IP communications, and I spent some time with Compaq HP. So all in technology, always in marketing. I've done everything you can imagine in marketing, so you can kind of consider me someone who's kind of grown up in marketing and grown old in marketing, if I were to also admit that. Grown up and grown old in marketing, but it's been quite a blast. I've had a variety of different roles, and kind of all paths led me to this point now. So it's great to be here.
And Nick, how did you get into the marketing world in the first place?
Well, it started with a decision on the education front. That's what I decided I wanted to get a degree in, and I really got to know the topic from an academic standpoint. But I started my career in a company that was doing online services back in the day when people didn't quite know what the internet is and what to make of it. And my job in marketing there was to, in essence, figure out what people would pay for and why. In essence, kind of product marketing. So that was my first really taste of what marketing is all about, and I absolutely loved it. Those are my two loves of my life, in addition to family and all that good stuff. But from a professional standpoint, is technology and marketing, and I was able to blend the two together. And from there on, like I said, I took on very different roles, from marketing strategy, marketing planning, marketing operations, advertising, branding. I've either done or worked very closely with every function in marketing throughout my career. So it's with every role, I've kind of reaffirmed that this is the place for me. And this happens to also be, AJ, one of those functions that I tell the young people coming in, very rare to see a function balance both science and art in a single function, right? So you can have a whole spectrum of roles within marketing and go anywhere from analytics and the pure sciences and dashboards and big data in marketing and predictive and all of that fun stuff, all the way to picking colors with a creative agency and fonts and designs and everything else in between. So it's an amazing spectrum of a function. So it gives you so many opportunities to do a variety of things within the same function. That's what I love about it.
And Nick, you majored in marketing at a time where I don't think a lot of the universities even had marketing as a major. So is that something you were passionate about ever since you were growing up, that you wanted to get into it?
Well, AJ, I said I'm old. I'm not that old.
Did you have books at your school, Nick?
They did have marketing. I don't know how far before me, but I will say this. Marketing as we know it now is very different than the marketing I grew up learning and even now some of the early roles, right? So, it's funny, when digital marketing came about, there was a debate. Is it digital marketing or is it marketing in the digital world? And I think it's the latter. There is no marketing that is not digital impacted in some way. Even the most physical of marketing tactics have a digital element to them, whether it's the planning phase, the invitation phase to a physical event, the design elements from a digital standpoint. Everything has a digital element to it. So I think digital marketing, as we know, or marketing in the digital realm, was nowhere near, the radar when I was studying marketing in school. But it wasn't much of a leap, for me at least, because I love technology. I will tell you there was an interesting point where digital marketing was actually starting to become more of a force. And there was a dichotomy in what I call digital migrants and digital natives, right? A digital migrant is somebody like me. I'm actually an immigrant as well in real life, but a digital migrant is somebody who grew up in traditional marketing, saw the potential of digital marketing or marketing in the digital realm, and really got up to speed with the tools, the technology, the very different way of thinking. That is a digital migrant. Digital natives are, of course, the folks that have grown up with digital as a consumer, so they understand it very deeply from a native standpoint. They didn't have to be explained what digital marketing means versus traditional marketing. And there's a third population that are no longer in marketing. Those are the ones that didn't make the trip, just like immigrants. There's some immigrants who stay in the old country. There are some marketers who stayed with traditional marketing, just couldn't make the leap into digital marketing. But I was one of the happy migrants to go from traditional marketing to digital marketing. It's been really an exciting, exhilarating journey. Every day you turn around, there's a new vendor, there's a new technology, there's a new way to do things. To me, that's exciting. To other people, that's exhausting. So for me, it's exciting.
Yeah, I love it. He's, well, back when you went to college, it was their major. So I need more coffee, AJ. You need less today. I love it. That was fun.
Don't let the gray beard fool you, AJ.
Well, I told you we have fun here on the Marketing Stir, Nick. Thank you for having fun with us. So I wanted to go back to something you said there, because a lot of people that I talk to, they often view marketing as a combination of arts and math. You see it as a combination of arts and science. Elaborate on that.
Yeah. Well, math was probably one of my weakest subjects ever.
Same.
But thankfully, digital marketing is not, there's math underneath, okay? But digital marketing is not about understanding math. It's about understanding the behavior of the modern consumer, how they consume data, how, to analyze, in essence, the digital journey, what we call the digital exhaust. All of those things are now approachable by anyone and everyone who has an interest because of the amazing technology we have available to us. Just think about Google search, right? It's the most plain white web page in the world, the most simple user experience that hides the most complex algorithm probably in the world. Because there's complex math behind something doesn't mean you need to understand the math behind it. You just need to appreciate, in essence, what goes into it. And that's how I look at it. That's why I call it science. It's a lot more than math. There's behavioral sciences. There's predictive. There's some math in there as well, but statistics. There's all kinds of sciences in there. And most importantly, the behavioral part now. Like I said, marketing is one of those functions that has such a broad spectrum of things that we need to study and understand. That's kind of getting into psychology, really understanding the behavior and how the behavior has switched from doing a lot of the researching with humans versus researching on digital realm and all of that. What does that mean? How many things should we present to the prospect before they get sick of us? At what time should we engage so that we don't look like we're something nefarious, but that we're actually trying to help? How do you let them know how much you know without spooking them and scaring them away? All of those things are, into the realm of psychology and behavioral sciences.
And I want to talk about something you said there as far as the cadence of when to reach out. But What methods of marketing, this is the marketing stir, we love to get down to the nitty gritty, Nick. What methods of marketing are you using that are working? Is it account-based marketing? Are you using email, direct mail? Tell us.
Yeah. So to me, anyone that selects one of those or a few of those is missing something very important, right? Marketing is all about a collection of outreach tactics, right? And it's the sequence and the timing of those tactics that makes the difference, not necessarily the single. There isn't a silver bullet that you say, you know what, if I could only just nail email, or if I could only just nail advertising or search. Everything has to work together. So that's part of the fun in marketing, is that there's no easy answer. You have to kind of balance all those things together. There's a question always, does email still work? Yes, it still works. Look at your inbox. It still works. Somebody somewhere is getting paid to send you an email. And economics work so that, they wouldn't be doing it if there was no money in it. So that still works. But does it work alone? No. Does cold calling work? I would say that one is on pretty close to dying, but there's still a role for, a voice outreach. I don't know that it's the traditional phone, but some sort of a human outreach. So all of these tactics. Now, to go to specific areas that, again, not necessarily a silver bullet, but things that should be in everyone's toolbox. Account-based marketing is one of those. And I think last time we spoke, Vincent, I think we talked about IBM a little bit more. To me, that is probably one of the most powerful, not tools, powerful methodologies, powerful ways to think about marketing. It's marketing to a market of one, or targeting a market of one. So that is not for every customer you have. It's for the tip of the pyramid. It's for the most strategic, most important customers you have. But in those cases, you are doing really fine-tuned, tailored marketing. And we have the tools now like never before to make it really like an optimal outreach for them, not for you. It's not optimal for you, doesn't matter. Is it optimal for them? The way you communicate, are you sharing with them information that they'd like to know? Are you adding some valuable knowledge to their brain that they didn't have before? And you can only do that if you study each customer at a time. Clearly, you can't do that for every customer. So you have to subsegment and only do that for a select group of customers. But I think that is a methodology that should be part of every marketing mix out there, in my view. Now, back to my previous point, that is a methodology, that is a way to think about things. Tactics underneath are still the same tactics we deploy. You can still do an email outreach and a social outreach, and even some out-of-home advertising. We've, in previous life, we've done some out-of-home advertising for a specific customer. That we put billboards outside their headquarters. So and cars with our branding on it driving around their neighborhood. You can target that. Now, as far as they were concerned, it looks like we're all over the place. They didn't know that we're targeting just them, but to them it looked like we were spending millions and millions of dollars because everywhere they turned, here was brand A. So that is using multiple tactics, but is a way of thinking about marketing outreach.
Nick, in my younger days, we used to know the company better as IP Soft. So would love to know when the brand changed and what the thought process was behind the change.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the thought process began on my interview, for the job. Really, I was interviewing with the founder and CEO, and Chaden Dubé is his name. He's one of those brilliant men, very, very a luminary in this space, really thought-provoking conversation. But then I'm looking at this amazing technology and this amazing intelligent virtual assistant called Amelia. And then the name of the company just didn't do that. It didn't meet my perception of what a cutting edge AI company looks like. Why? Because the name was introduced in 20 years ago and had to do with something completely different than AI. AI didn't really come into this company's realm until about 70 years ago. So my view is this, like if the crown jewel is Amelia, then the company name should be Amelia. Plus, it's crisp, it's clear, it's memorable, and it's personified, which goes to the center of what we do. We are all about teaming human and digital assistants to be able to eliminate boring work in the workplace and unleash people's creativity. So it is about Amelia. Why wouldn't the company be called Amelia? That was my thought process. So I planted the seed. It took hold, and we picked the right time. And in October 1st of this year, really just a couple of months ago, we launched the company Amelia, and we positioned it so that people understand there's a bridge. It's Amelia, an IPsoft company, but as of now, the name of the company is Amelia.
Great. And Nick, tell us a little bit about who your target audience is, and who some of your well-known clients are.
Yeah, so the target audience is actually there's divergence there. There's two types of people that we talk to. One is that of course, there's a CIO and his or her organization, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a technology. Having said that, injecting AI artfully, carefully, strategically in a company has significant implications in go-to-market. So this rises up to the C-level in terms of the final decision. It's not just another app that you bring into your company or just another technology. It fundamentally changes the way you go to market in a good way. So many times decision makers are the C-suite, with the CEO, of course, being the ultimate decision maker, and the CFO. But for example, right, a lot of our use cases have to do with customer care. Especially now, right? Think about COVID and what that has done. I don't know if any of you have been on the phone trying to talk to an airline or to a hotel or to a phone company or any of these companies, right? Bear with us because our hold times are like 45 minutes. You're like number 558 in line. Nobody could have predicted the 3 or 4x the call volume coming in. So what does that mean for us? Well, we'll put Amelia in front of the call center. She can answer every one of those calls with zero hold time, take care of 80% of the questions, because you can teach her, just like you teach any human, to understand all of your policies, and the questions and answers usually is an 80-20 rule. There's 80% of the questions are about 20% of the topics. She handles it, and to the degree that a user says, I want to speak to a human, she escalates to a human and then stays on the phone, Amelia does, listens to the human discussion, human to human, and then understands it, and then she's able to answer the next call back. That kind of use case is going through the roof right now because of COVID. That's one. Another use case is IT help desk. Again, look at all of us, right? We're at home, working from home. Many of us are used to working from home. Many companies did not have a lot of home employees. Think about the VPN setups and the password setups and setting up your home office. So a lot of IT help desks have been suffering because of that. That's another use case where Amelia plays the role. And then HR. HR is also suffering because a lot of people are asking about all kinds of policy questions about vacations and travel expenses and whatever, or expenses of setting up a home office. So we have all of those use cases that we're helping customers with. It doesn't limit itself there, but it's those are the prevalent use cases. I give you one name, Telefonica, that you'll recognize. It's the largest telco provider in Latin America, in Spain, but also a very, very big player in Latin America. We handle more than, I think now it's like something like 6 million calls a month for Telefonica. Just think about the cost implications of that, and also the customer satisfaction implications, because she answers the right She answers right every single time because she learns. That's the beauty of AI. Versus a chatbot where it's a human scripted decision tree, a fancy FAQ, versus AI like Amelia, where she actually learns on the job. She can scale up to support many, many use cases, and she communicates like a human would. And also she speaks 100 languages dynamically, right? So you can have a conversation, you can start speaking one language and switch to the other language mid-conversation, and she will converse in that language. It's kind of hard to find a human agent that can speak 100 languages dynamically, right? So Telefonica, Bankia, SEB, another bank in the Nordics, Unisys is a huge partner, Deloitte is a partner of ours, NTT Communications, BNP Paribas, many, many customers. A lot in the financial services community, in the telco industry, healthcare. A lot of good success stories, and there's still so much more. We're just scratching the tip of the iceberg in terms of the possible use cases that conversational AI can handle.
And Nick, during 2020, we've talked to a lot of companies on the podcast. Some companies that business has been hurt. Some companies that, this pandemic, because of the products and services that they have thrived because they're solving a solution like you just mentioned. Has that been the case for Amelia? You just mentioned travel industry, you just mentioned hospitality. Has aspects of Amelia's business grown because of 2020?
So that's a very, very interesting question. And there isn't a simple answer. Here's why. A few companies like ours are sitting in a position where we can be part of the solution, right? You have Zoom. So look at what happened with Zoom, right? And other companies that are in essence gearing towards this new environment that we're in. We're in that small camp of companies that can actually benefit other companies in the middle of the pandemic. Having said so, the pipeline is growing faster than we can keep track of. Having said that, the reality is that most companies, regardless of their intent, their businesses are hurting too, right? So cracking open a budget is not as simple as it used to be because we are in the middle of a pandemic and their business dropped off 60%. So even though the need is more clear, the pipeline is growing like crazy. Business hasn't quite followed that same trend. It's improving, but at a slower rate, it's at a slower pace because budgets are hard to come by. Having said that, if it's a existential threat for the company, they'll find the money and get it done. Call centers are one of those things. If your call centers are not able to answer the customers in less than 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you are in big trouble. And they're going to remember that way past the pandemic. So a lot of companies are prioritizing money for that. My point is, it's not as simple as, hey, it must be growing like a shuttle. It's growing, but we're limited by customers' ability to access budgets.
I appreciate that answer there. Like I said, we've had some companies where it's travel related and they've been hurting, but really revamping. There's other companies that specialize in digital transformation that have been thriving. So I appreciate the answer there. Nick, you mentioned it before, and of course we love talking about it because Stirista is a data company, but what's the importance that your company puts on data? And are you using that data for growth, for example? Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, from a marketing standpoint, data is the key to the kingdom, right? I mean, if data is knowledge and knowledge is power, right? So, and we in marketing have more knowledge than anyone else in the company on one thing that everybody cares about, customer behavior, right? Do people care about accounts receivables? Yes. So accounting has access to accounts receivables. Not everybody cares about accounts receivables. Do people care about facilities? Yes. So facilities has information there. That's power. We have information about customer behavior that drives the top line of the company. So we place huge significance on data. As any company, you struggle with the abundance of data. So we've gone from having not enough data to having overabundant data cheaply. The question is, what do you do about it? Data by itself doesn't solve any problem. Data solves problems when it becomes knowledge. And the difference between data and knowledge is humans. So you have to have smart humans who know what to do with the data to basically turn it into knowledge for the company. And that's always the challenge. I can, and over my years in marketing, especially in larger companies where I had a bigger budget, frankly, I was able to really experience a lot of fantastic companies, a lot of fantastic data products, especially for B2B, that I have access to. The question is, I want to make sure that I can do something about it. So we kind of regulate ourselves down, or we calm ourselves down, or myself more than anybody else, with making sure that we only get data that we can do something about. So the fundamentals, marketing, the marketing automation platform, right? So that data, being able to really understand attribution and which channels are working, which channels are not working, website traffic, obviously the web analytics, social analytics. We have some predictive analytics as well now with a couple of players that I'm familiar with. So those things are absolutely important to us. But again, the value is in what you do with it versus just accessing it.
And Nick, what are some of the tools that you're using in your marketing stack that you like or have found interesting in terms of if you have favorites when it comes to CRM and marketing automation and other tools?
Of course, I will tell you, I'll answer this based on multiple company experience, because
Sure.
I've only been here a year, and like I said, if I compare my budget at a $25 billion firm versus my budget now, it's a little bit different. But some of the best predictive tools out there is Demandbase has always been a favorite of mine. I work with Demandbase for as long as they've been around. Actually, I started working with them when they were just purely analytics, not even a marketing solution. And Sixth Sense is also a company that I would keep an eye on. And I know Amanda and the team very well. And again, we worked with them ever since their inception in a different company. And they do some very, very interesting things. TechTarget is a company that we're partnering with now, and they have an interesting platform. Obviously, what they have different is that they have knowledge that is first-party knowledge, right? Because that's accumulated from hundreds of websites that they have gearing towards the technology marketplace. They're using that first-party data to actually develop their own predictive model, and they've done a pretty good job at that. So in the predictive realm, those three are very good. I've started to talk with G2. I haven't worked with them extensively there, but I know some people there, and I'm very impressed with what they're doing with their predictive engine, because everybody's starting to move there. They're coming at it from a different place, obviously. They're coming at it from the community ratings and rankings. But again, think of the intelligence that they can gather from everyone that's ranking a particular platform and people that are looking for how people are ranking them. So in the predictive space, I may be missing some, but those are the key players. We're using Hubspot now. I'm very happy with them. I think Hubspot meets a need for a certain size and a certain level of complexity, right? So for the size we're in now, it's just about right. It's actually perfect for us. Worked with Marketo before, and Marketo is obviously, especially given the acquisition, the Adobe acquisition, they are, I would say, the premier solution, especially in the enterprise. And I was very happy with them when we were using them before. And then, of course, is it Salesforce on the sales side of the house. So that integration is working quite well. I will tell you again, depending on the size of the company, some of the Hubspot sales solutions are actually very interesting as well because it's one-stop shop. But again, you may outgrow that beyond a certain size. Of course, LinkedIn, of all the outbound targeting activities, we use LinkedIn extensively. A lot of those guys, I worked with them for a long time. And we work a lot with Google, of course, who wouldn't, for search and for GDN and some YouTube advertising. So those are the ones that I like a lot. You know, I've seen many tools in the past, and I probably, you know, drive you nuts going through the whole list. But those are top of mind right now.
You make a great point, Nick, about the size of the company, because we started using Salesforce way too early when we had 2 salespeople, and most of the time we had no idea what we were doing. And until recently, when we have a part-time Salesforce developer, now we're starting to see the value of Salesforce as we're adding more salespeople every day.
You're exactly right. But you know, I would say, AJ, it's the number of salespeople and the sales organization maturity and cadence and discipline, right? Because that needs to go. Even if you have a small company, if you have the discipline and maturity to work with Salesforce, that's great, but you won't be able to get the most out of it unless you have the actual, the intangible part, which lies with you now with Salesforce. How committed are you to the sales science, you know?
Right.
And if you are, then you can get a lot out of it. If you're not, might as well just go with a much lighter tool because you're probably overpaying them.
Right. And Nick, is it fair to say you probably use ABM as a strategy?
I absolutely, you know, ABM is one of those things that I feel very passionately about. Actually, my previous company, we won a Serious Decisions Award for the best program for that year. I will tell you one thing. Here's a challenge with ABM. ABM, to be successful, needs ABMers, right? So a lot of people misunderstand ABM to be a platform or a tool. It's not. ABM is a discipline. It says account-based marketing. So you need account-based marketing professionals to be able to face off with no more than 3 to 5 accounts each, and do it well and do it right and deeply, and work very closely with the sales team and be a virtual extension of the sales team and be respected as an extension of the sales team and all of that good stuff, and think about strategies together, and then you can fully activate ABM. So I'm holding off on really doing ABM until I have ABMers to do it right. I'm doing ABM-like tactics. You know, if you go on LinkedIn and I can target a particular company and only them at different levels, yes, that's a tactic, but it's not a full ABM program. And I will tell you one thing that's always very interesting. I think, Vincent, we may have had this discussion before, but there's always this interesting definitional discussion that I have with other marketing friends, where people say, I'm doing ABM. I go, really, what are you doing? Well, you know, we're targeting this 20 accounts with this effort. I'm like, the minute you go beyond one account, you're not doing ABM. You're doing segment marketing. So stop calling it ABM because it's not account-based. No account is the same as another account. I don't care if the same industry or even if they're in the same zip code and the exact same size of employees. They're not the same. So to do account-based marketing, you have to do it with one. If you're taking account-based marketing principles and you're doing it one to few, then it's segment marketing. It happens to be a smaller segment. But it's a very, very big difference between sitting down with sales and saying, what's our strategy? Who are the decision makers? Who are the drivers? What timing? What solutions should we reach out to? What are they saying on social media? Who are the people that we should try and influence? You can't do that for a segment of 50. Not well. You're doing segment marketing. So I see that as a very, very different discipline. And again, back to what I said before, one that every company should have. I don't care how small you are. You have a most important customer, even if it's one. Start with one. Start focusing on them first. Then you hit them and you win, then you go to 2 or 3 accounts. But never go beyond that ratio of 1 to 3, 1 to 5 max, meaning one ABMer to like 5 accounts. Otherwise, they start losing, physically, there's not enough time and attention to spend to more than 5 if you want to do it right. Anyway, see what happens. You mentioned ABM. I get all passionate and I talk for like 10.
That's that's great, because ABM is a topic that does come up on the Marketing Stir on occasion, but when it does, our listeners love talking about it. And then I love talking about it myself because I'm strictly on B2B here as well.
I think it's fair to say Nick has the most passion in the few minutes.
Yes. I exactly. And you mentioned other great companies that are assisting with that. I thought Chris Golick loved ABM from Demandbase, the CEO. He's a friend of mine there. I think you'd love it even more than him.
No, Chris and I go back, like I said, from the days where they were not even doing advertising. I was one that raised my hand, and when they reached out and said, "Hey, we're thinking of doing this advertising thing. Do you want to be a beta?" And I said, "Yes, sign me up." So I've been a fan of Chris and the team ever since, and we've had quite a few conversations and discussions about where to take it and so forth. So Chris and his team are absolutely brilliant. They're doing all the right things.
Yeah. Great guy. He and I stay close friends, and we reach out to each other and chat every once in a while. So that is awesome. You mentioned other great companies there. Tech Target. We had Brian Hessian on the podcast from Tech Target, and love all those industry companies that you mentioned. You mentioned LinkedIn, and we have a signature question on this podcast, Nick. It is called the LinkedIn Pet Peeve question. What is a message on LinkedIn that gets Nick to say, okay, I'll accept it. I'd love to hear more. Let's set up a meeting. And what is a pet peeve that people utilize LinkedIn for? What's a message that you just hate on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I assume by message, you mean like the emails, the direct outreach?
Yes.
Yeah. So I make it a point to never be rude to people, of course. However, I never reach out to people I don't know, and I expect the same. On LinkedIn, it's different than Twitter and everything else. Twitter, you want to have as many followers as you want. LinkedIn was designed, and I think is best at true business networking, right? So to me, I make it a rule not to connect with anyone whom I do not know. Either I've met them or I talked to them, or somebody else introduces me to them, or we've done business together. So I usually don't connect to people unless I know them, because I think there's value in that. If, for example, somebody tells you, for this to be powerful, I can reach out to a friend and say, "Hey, are you connected to XYZ?" If they say yes, I say, "Great, can you make an introduction?" And they say, "Well, I don't really know. They just reached out and I connected." I'm like, "Well, what good is that?" I mean, the whole idea is supposed to be a networking tool. It's a networking tool by definition. So by definition, that's my pet peeve. My pet peeve is the usual message that says, "I found you on LinkedIn and our interests seem to match. So what do you say we connect?" I say no, because I don't know if my interests align with you. I don't know if I can help you. I don't know that you can help me. And I think it breaks the model of what LinkedIn was all about. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, no, I like that. You share my pet peeves on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, I love networking. The fact that there's not conferences kills me, or events. Yes, they're virtual. We're still doing that, but I love networking. And that's the same way I test LinkedIn. If you could reach out to me, Nick, and you could say, "Hey, Vin, I want to reach out to Stephanie at this company. I see you're in common." I should be able to say, "Oh yeah, that's Stephanie. I met her at this, boom, 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 boom." I'd be happy to make an introduction for you. So I guard my network very closely.
Yes.
So, and I'm happy to be a part of your network. So thank you for that. A other question, not a question, but we love talking about this on the Marketing Stir. We believe in this so much at Stirista as a company, and both AJ and I individually. The work that you're doing, you were a group buddy at Jill's house. I'd love to talk about that. We love talking about charitable work, nonprofit organizations. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Well, let me first say that what I did and the support that I have for Jill's House is minimal compared to what other people do for that organization. Let me tell you what the organization is about. It's actually a wonderful organization. They're literally a mile down the road from me. They're an organization, is affiliated with the church, but they're non-denominational. They're really just focused on the people. They're all about helping the families of children with disabilities, mental disabilities, get a break. And what does that mean? Like when you have a child with disabilities, all parents, like you're a young parent yourself, the kind of love we feel for our children, right? So imagine, that all of your energies are going into your child. Now, a child with disabilities has a lot more needs. It's a lot more draining than it is for you and I to care for our children. So those parents deserve a break. And the break that they get is a place where they can bring their children to have fun for the weekend or an overnight stay, or even during the week when the school is off or whatever. And they have activities and games and staff who really, really pay attention to the children, and they spend quality time with them. So the children look at that almost as a mini vacation, and that's it. I was simply a volunteer. I was called a buddy, basically just hanging out with the children. That was my only job. And the reason I say is because now during COVID they had to put it on pause because of all the obvious challenges. So and I got busy at work as well. So I was more active for a couple of years. It's been about a year now that I've been inactive, especially with my new job. But they're also offline right now. Or at least they're off in terms of the operation. But I want to re-engage with them because it's such a good cause, and those people are such good people. It's all volunteers, and the parents pay nothing if they can't afford it. So it's really, really a good place for children and for the parents who care for them.
And Nick, as a final question for you, you mentioned you're an immigrant, and the last one we ask is just to get to know you a little bit more personally. So would love to know a little bit about your personal background, what you enjoy doing, and any final thoughts.
Yeah. I was born and raised on the island of Cyprus in the Eastern Mediterranean. So, I came to the States to go to college and been here ever since. In the 1800s, AJ.
Is that even a country, Nick, that exists?
But no, it's in Cyprus. For those who know, it's a very, very small island. It is an independent country. It's less than 1 million people. Greek heritage, which is what the Corinthian helmet is for on the background. So, I'm pretty proud. My kids make fun of my the level of pride that I bring with being having a Greek background, Greek Cypriot background. So, they say when you immigrate to a country beyond a certain point, usually they say 14, 15 years old, you never really shed that origin, right? Not that I want to, but you can also tell it in my accent, 35 years here and I still can't speak English with a decent accent, but that's what happens. Proud Greek Cypriot American.
Very nice. I'm proud of Italian heritage. So Greeks, Italians, we always have something in common. Great food and, prideful heritage. That's Nick Panayi, ladies and gentlemen. Nick, that's it. You did a great job. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's been a blast. Really a lot of fun. Thank you.
That is Nick. He, again, is the Chief Marketing Officer of Amelia, formerly IPsoft. That's Ajay Gupta, our CEO. I'm Vincent Petrofessa, the Vice President of B2B Products here at Stirista. This has been The Marketing Stir. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like, rate, and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, email us at info@themarketingstir.com. Thanks for listening.